The show begins with a lovely young woman named Jiang preparing to marry her handsome fiancé. However, during the ring ceremony, the man calls her by a different name. This infuriates her so much that she smacks him across the face before storming out of her own wedding. Outside, she notices another wedding taking place at a nearby venue. Jiang then decides to sneak in, pretending to be a guest. When she sees the happy couple, she can't help but mournfully reflect. She begins to believe that everyone else's love story is perfect except hers. But to her surprise, before the couple can take their vows, the bride's boyfriend interrupts and takes her away. This leaves the groom, Mr. Moko, and all the attendees stunned. Seizing the opportunity, Jiang downs a shot of vodka and approaches the jilted groom. She tells the guest that she's been in love with Moko for over a decade and proposes to him. While he hesitates to respond, she announces to the guest that he has accepted her marriage proposal. Later, we learn that Moko had actually arranged the wedding debacle because he didn't want to get married. However, he didn't plan on Jiang and instantly fell for her joyous and straightforward nature. Afterward, he takes her to a room and asks her to choose a wedding gift. Jiang finds this gesture romantic, interesting, and captivating. A little while later, Moko receives an urgent call from a bank. Jiang overhears this conversation and mistakenly believes that he is in financial trouble. However, in reality, Moko is the one bailing out the bank. The scene then shifts to Moko's office, where Jiang has just started working. The manager, Saki, is a bitch and treats Jiang like shit and forces her to work unpaid overtime. However, one day, Moko walks in and Saki complains about Jiang. To Saki's dismay, he dismisses her and instead praises Jiang. Furious, Saki tries to undermine Jiang by assigning her the difficult task of live broadcasting their products the next day. Later that evening, our girl is busting her ass to learn the script for the upcoming live broadcast. After hours of practice, she falls asleep. That is when Saki comes in and tears up her script. The next day, when it's time for the broadcast, Jiang discovers her script torn to shreds. At the same time, Saki accuses her of being lazy and lacking work ethic. She rambles on, saying that the company will now have to suffer because of her carelessness. However, to her embarrassment, Jiang improvises and manages to nail it, making the live event a big success. At the end of the day, Jiang waits for Moko to pick her up when Saki shows up and mocks her for her earlier presentation. In response, Jiang flashes her credentials, which leads to a heated confrontation. Just then, Moko pulls up in his car. The slutty cunning bitch Saki tries to convince him to give her a ride. But to her complete humiliation, he reveals that he's there to pick up his wife, and as a courtesy, opens the door for Jiang and drives away as Saki seethes with hatred on the curb. The scene then shifts to a hotel where Jiang is accompanied by her family members, and specifically, her cousin Leela. When they arrive, a hotel employee informs them that there are no available rooms and suggests they leave. However, the manager recognizes Jiang and quickly arranges a VIP room. The arrogant Leela assumes that the VIP treatment is due to her husband, but when Jiang tries to explain about Moko, the cousin refuses to hear her out. A little while later, our hero arrives at the hotel and apologizes to Leela for his wife's behavior. However, she just continues to be a bitch. She starts blabbering about one of their business ventures, Morse Group. When Moko hears this name, he steps out of the room and calls his manager. Shortly after, Leela's husband receives a call informing him that their main investor has backed out. At that moment, he realizes that his company is linked to Moko's and apologizes for his wife's comments. He pleads with him not to terminate their deal. However, our hero has already made up his mind, ends the contract, and leaves the room with Jiang. Next, we find the couple together in an office elevator. Just as Moko tries to be romantic, the door opens and a senior employee named Neo catches them in a compromising situation. Taken aback, she wonders how this new girl managed to win her boss's affection. A little while later, Neo, who is wearing a short skirt, attempts to flirt with Moko, but he politely declines her advances. This enrages her, so she decides to take her frustration out on Jiang. She approaches her and falsely claims that the company has changed the dress code, so from now on, all the female employees must wear a short skirt. Naively, Jiang shows up for work the next day in a short skirt. Shortly after, she is called into Moko's office where he begins complimenting her appearance. He then makes another attempt to get closer. However, Neo interrupts her moment and tells Jiang to fetch a priceless piece of artwork. She warns that the painting belongs to Moko, so it should be handled carefully. Without much thought, Jiang agrees to pick up the piece. However, on her way back, a man on the street carelessly collides with her car. Even though it's not her fault, Jeong rushes to help him and asks if he needs any medical attention. At this point, Neo, who has orchestrated this whole event, steals the painting from Jeong's car. Later at the office, when our girl returns empty-handed, Neo accuses her of stealing the priceless artwork, claiming to have found it under Jeong's desk. The latter claims to be innocent, but no one believes her. Just then, Moko arrives at the scene and asks Neo to uncover the painting. To everyone's shock, it turns out to be a picture of Jeong and Moko on their wedding day. Neo realizes that she's been bullying her boss's wife. She profusely apologizes for her actions, but Jeong angrily slaps her and dismisses her from her position. The scene then shifts to their home where Moko informs Jeong that his Aunt Losh is coming to stay for a few days. He warns her that the woman can be difficult at times. However, Jeong doesn't seem to mind and is happy to host and care for his aunt during her stay. In the next scene, Losh arrives at the house and quickly settles in. Later, when Moko suggests they dine out, she expresses her displeasure right away. She wants to eat home-cooked food, so Jeong is assigned to the task. Unfortunately, she's a shitty cook. Just when it seems dinner will be a disaster, Moko secretly joins her, and together, they prepare an impressive meal, and she compliments Jeong for her efforts. The next day, our hero does all the work, while his wife takes all the credit. Turns out, she is bad at all household chores. In the next scene, Aunt Losh pretends to leave for the airport, and as soon as she is gone, Jeong starts ordering her husband around. But a few moments later, Losh returns and learns that her nephew was doing the household chores all along. Jeong humbly apologizes. However, Losh appreciates her ability to make Moko step up and presents her with a precious bracelet in thanks. In the next scene, Jeong sees a boy tearfully begging his mother not to leave him. At the same time, a bodyguard is trying to pull him away from his mother. Jeong misinterprets the entire situation and believes the man is a kidnapper. So she rushes to the scene and warns him to stay away. Later at her office, Jeong sees the same woman, Mrs. Lee, preparing for a job interview. The company's HR, Sia, checks her profile and criticizes her for being a divorcee. However, Jeong steps in, calls out the misogyny, and tells the HR to do better. Mrs. Lee eventually secures herself a good position. She and Jeong become instant friends and form a formidable team. Over the course of the next few days, they work hard and secure a trip to one of the most expensive hotels in town. When they arrive at the hotel, Sia stops them and boasts that her husband is the manager there. She tries to pull rank, but then her husband arrives and pays great respect to Mrs. Lee. It turns out that Mrs. Lee is the owner of the five-star hotel. She is only working at Moko's company because she is tired of having a dull and boring life. Upset with Sia, Mrs. Lee immediately fires Sia's husband and suggests that he get a divorce. She then thanks Jeong for backing her by giving her a gift. When she opens the gift, she is shocked to see a kilo of gold. Later, Jeong meets her mother-in-law for the first time, and they have a lot of fun. They share each other's favorite dishes and talk about their lives. The old woman suffers from back pain, so Jeong helps support her as she walks. At home, she tenderly cares for her mother-in-law. A little while later, Moko returns with a bag of skincare products for his mom. While they chat, a young woman named Xiao arrives, and Mom introduces her as the daughter of a family friend. Unfortunately, she turns out to be a skank who immediately begins to make fun of Jeong. She tries to flirt with Moko, but he turns her down. When she starts to get out of hand, Mom aggressively pushes her out of the house. Xiao claims that she's better than Jeong. However, Mom thinks otherwise and speaks highly of her heroine, describing her as a sincere, hardworking, and caring person who is a perfect match for Moko. Hearing all this, Jeong is overjoyed, so she hugs her mother-in-law tightly. The scene then changes to Jeong attending a meeting where she notices her high school friend, Xiao, struggling to park a bike. Thinking she's still facing financial difficulties, Jeong invites her to lunch and gives her a bag of skincare to cheer her up. At lunch, Jeong orders dishes with peculiar names. When Xiao asks how she knows so much, Jeong fibs, saying that she used to work there as a waiter. After they finish eating and it's time to pay the bill, Jeong discreetly hands her credit card to the cashier and asks her to act as if their lunch was on the house. Later, she arrives at the office and attends a meeting with a client, pretending to be the company president. To her surprise, the client is none other than Xiao herself. Both of them are surprised and delighted to see how far they've come in life. Next, Jeong is at a bar with her friends feeling down and drinking. She expresses her worries that Moko is becoming distant and believes it's her fault. She reflects on the time she may have irritated him knowingly or unknowingly. However, one of her friends reassures her that Moko loves her deeply. He adores everything about her and could never even think of being with someone else. In the final scene, Moko approaches Jiang and presents her with a photo album filled with pictures of their time together. He then shares a heartfelt speech expressing his fondness for every aspect of Jiang, from her way of talking and walking to how she sleeps. He simply enjoys being in her company. He then proposes as the people at the bar cheer. The drama concludes with Jiang accepting the proposal and them getting married for a second time in a joyous celebration.